What is going on, guys? It's the Mad Dragon. So the teams are being announced for the second week of the July internationals. We've already done South Africa versus Wales, we've done New Zealand versus Ireland, and Australia versus England in terms of the preview videos. We're on to Argentina versus Scotland. Now, last week, Scotland felt a little bit underwhelming in that game. I was both impressed with how much Argentina stepped up from the last time I'd seen them, and a little bit underwhelmed by what Scotland sort of ended up doing in that game. It was pretty much an Argentina first half. There was 40 to 60 minutes was all Scotland, this huge comeback. It looked like Scotland were on for this victory, and then they just fizzled out again in the last 20 minutes or so. Now, for anyone wondering where my match report for that video was, I did actually film it. And after filming it all and setting it all up and getting ready to sit down and edit it, I found out that my microphone wasn't turned on. So unfortunately, that video is just a half-hour video of me waving my arms around saying nothing. So that ended up being a bit of a waste of time. So unfortunately, I didn't get that out just in case anyone was waiting for that video to come up. And unfortunately, we're now on to the next week. So I guess we won't be able to do that one, but we'll try our best to get microphones working in time for the next match report. So going into this week, what is going to be changing in the teams? So let's start off talking about the Argentina team first. So starting off in this front row, we have Tetas Chaparro, Julian Montoya, and Francisco Gomez Cortella. Now, this front row was doing pretty well, in all honesty. In that first half, I felt like Argentina was certainly more on the offensive in terms of the scrums and the set pieces. They looked far more dominant. Scotland did get away with a couple of penalties in terms of scrummaging time right on their own 5-metre line, just holding them out. I think the scoreline could have been far worse if they didn't manage to win a couple of those. But I think Argentina will be pretty happy with their scrum, and I think they'll build on that now, moving towards this second game just to try and really dominate that forward pack. In terms of the lock department, then we have Guido Petty and Matthias Alemano. Now, Guido Petty last week was doing extremely well, had a lovely little breakdown. The left wing just cut through the Scottish backline and actually made it all the way up to the try line. Thought he was going to have an incredible try for a lock to score. The speed overall in this team, not just the backs, but also the forwards, seems to have improved dramatically since the last time I saw them, really getting engaged like 12, 18 months ago. The step up from there has been really, really nice to see. In the back row, we have Juan Martin Gonzalez Samso. What a name. What an incredible name. Marcos Kramer going to be remaining there. And then Rodrigo Bruni coming in. So a couple of people missing out here, which is a little bit unfortunate. No Pablo Matera, not named on the bench either. No idea if there's an injury or something. Marcos Kramer, for a couple of the situations he's been in, actually discipline seemed to be improved quite a lot from, again, the last few games I've seen from Argentina. Discipline was better. A couple of needless penalties. It was always in the breakdown, but it always felt a little bit more like Scotland were creating the penalty rather than Argentina was sort of giving it away a bit, sort of, whatever. Onto the backs then, we have Gonzalo Bertrano going in the scrum half shirt, looking really good. Looking forward to seeing more from him. And then in the flight half, Santiago Carreras is actually going to be starting this week. So no Nicolas Sanchez. He had an injury in that first game, which it didn't look like that much. It just looked like sort of an extension of the knee, maybe the hamstring. But yeah, took him out of the game quite early in that first half. But Carreras came on and looked really good. In fact, they didn't really skip a beat. If anything, they actually began to improve their running game. So Carreras coming in, I don't think is a terrible move. In terms of the centres then, no switch-ups here really. De La Fuente and Orlando, both of which playing extremely well last week. Very, very impressed from Orlando. Don't really know a lot about the lad, but last week watching him, again, just finding those lines in the Scottish defence. There was so much room and just picking the right line just to carve in between two players. Looking really, really good. And then in the back three, Juan Imhoff, Cordero and Boffelli. Now, Boffelli took over kicking duties last week, and it wasn't the best, I'm not going to lie. They certainly seem to miss out. I'm not sure why Carreras wasn't doing the kicking duties. I'm not too caught up on my Argentinian fly half knowledge. So maybe there's a reason why Boffelli took over that. Boffelli for me has always been more 50-50 in terms of kicking. He either sort of kicks everything or he'll just miss most of them. So not really there for him. So hopefully with Carreras going on, hopefully we'll have done a bit of training, maybe have a different kick taker, because it certainly wasn't working for them last week. But Santiago Cordero was playing very well as well. This Argentinian team has improved a lot in the last few months. It's nice to see them playing playing at home. It's nice to see them having support. They're a fiery team. They're an aggressive team. It felt like Scotland weren't quite ready for how physical that game was going to be last week. Really took them by surprise, especially when a couple of the subs came on. So in terms of the subs this week, we have Augustin Creevy. Now Creevy, again, just a hard-hitting runner, absolutely smashing his way through. Really nice to see. Maiko Vivas Joel Sklavy. Apologies for any mispronunciations of names. Like I said, I'm not too caught up on my Argentinian players. Lucas Paulos Issa is going to come back on as well. Again, Issa coming on last week, looking very good. In terms of replacement 21, Felipe Ezcura. Not a name I know at all, so we're going to keep an eye out for him. Domingo Miotti, and finally Matthias Moroni. Now, Matthias Moroni, again, looking very good. In fact, something that I've really begun to see now in this Argentine team, like I said, that's speed coming in, but so many of these backs now are not afraid. They're not trying to find room. They're not trying to run around the outside. They're playing like a back five of centres. The scrum halves, the fly halves included in that as well. Just all of them are playing so aggressively, straight line. The forwards felt like they were finding more lines around people, whereas the centres are picking these fantastic lines through two defenders. The rest of them are actually using these offload speed passing now. They're looking incredibly fast, not just in terms of like the breakdown of the ball, but also just in terms of speed of the players, aggressive running lines. They're looking really, really impressive, and I think I underestimate them a little bit. So a couple of switches around for this week, but overall, it's looking like a good Argentina team. On to Scotland then, who, like I've already said, I feel like will be a little bit disappointed with their performance last week. They never really felt in the game that much. The first half was all Argentina, save Blair Kinghorn, a couple of penalties, really keeping them in the game. A couple of really nice kicks from Blair Kinghorn to get to the corner, actually. I did mention all this in my match report, which of course had no audio. But yeah, beautiful kicks getting into that 5 metres. But realistically, they were struggling. Argentina so fast and aggressive, and the recycling of the ball just not allowing the Scotland defensive line to build at all. The only time we really saw Scotland getting into the flow of the game was between that 40th and 60th minute. They actually started gaining a bit of momentum. They were building attacks. There were more penalties coming from Argentina, and they were moving up the field. They were taking the threes when they were available, and even managed to get over for a couple of nice tries. Had a couple of tries that didn't count. There was a Duan van der Merwe one, which he sort of got down. I thought he got it down. But didn't actually end up counting. So they'll want to just improve and just tighten up the defence in this game more than anything. Just try and slow down the rate at the speed that Argentina were playing at. And I think they could be looking for a good game. So in terms of the team this week, not a great deal of switches around. Starting off in the front row, Pierre Schoeman, Dave Cherry comes in now, starting in this hooker position, and Xander Fagerson in that tight head. So, I don't think it's quite set yet in the Scotland team who is the starting hooker, but a lot of people are looking forward to seeing Dave Cherry. Again, fast speed player with the ball in hand, so looking forward for that. Lock department, Sam Skinner and Grant Gilchrist. Again, big jumpers in this Scotland line-out, but I don't remember them really sort of dominating that line-out possession. If I remember rightly, this game was a little bit more, if it was Argentina's line-out, they got their own line-out. If it was Scotland's line-out, they were getting their own line out. No one was really beginning to disrupt the other teams. So I want to see a little bit more from them in this game. In the back row, we've got Rory Darge, Hamish Watson, and Matt Fagerson. Now that is a more damaging back row setup. I think what we got here, Rory Darge and Hamish Watson on at the same time. Both very good in terms of the tackle rate, but both also very good in terms of jackling. One of the things I've mentioned quite a few times now is the speed that the ball was coming out from the rucks and tackles for Argentina was way too fast for Scotland to be able to deal with. So I think that's a direct reaction to that. Both Rory Darge and Hamish Watson will mean that you'll be able to slow down. They'll have to involve more people in the clear out just to stop people getting jackal penalties. Their potential for more turnovers arises, and also will just stop down that recycle speed, allow the rest of your defence to get set up. I think that's a really nice move. In terms of the backs then, Ben White getting his first start. Really looking forward to see him getting more into this. He hasn't had a great deal of game time yet in the Scotland jersey, so really looking forward to see more from him. Blair Kinghorn retaining his fly half shirt was impressive last week, actually. I've never rated him that much as a fly half, but overall for the game, thought he did well. Kicking duties were good. Like I said, the 5 metre kicks were really good. Maybe not so much in terms of the running play. He wasn't really creating anything himself. He needs the ball in his hands, with a bit of time to actually execute something, but a couple of really nice kicks from him. Centre partnership remains the same. Sam Johnson and Mark Bennett going into that outside centre shirt. Mark Bennett played okay. Again, 50-50. There was a couple of really nice runs he had, and then a couple of times he just ran into a defender when there was a 2-on-1. just needs to look outside, maybe get a bit more passing. There wasn't a great deal of passing going on from Mark Bennett there. And then in the back three, Duhan van der Merwe, Darcy Graham and Rory Hutchinson. Rory Hutchinson was looking good, actually. He is making the most of Hognott on the field, thought he was playing well. I think he got a try, actually, now that I think back to it. I think Hutchinson actually got over for a try as well. Duhan van der Merwe's defensive rate, very, very much improved. One of the big areas I've always said about Duhan van der Merwe. Big play, huge on attack, use him like a forward, use him like a back, but defense just letting him down. And last week he was absolutely on a couple of really key tackles, stopping tries going over. So impressive from him. So yeah, not a lot of switches around in this 15. It seems to be switches in the forwards, which feels like a bit of a reaction just to slow down that Argentina. The backs are going to be pretty much the same. Hopefully Ben White shows a little bit of flair, hopefully gets a nice little darts and improves the Scotland speed at the breakdown, because Scotland certainly were almost the opposite of Argentina. They really weren't getting that ball out at any good speed. And then finally, in terms of the replacements, we've got George Turner, Jamie Batty, Javan Sebastian, who I still haven't really got a great deal from. Really looking forward to see something from him. Scott Cummings will come on in that second half. Who will he come on for? I guess he can play 4 or 5. When I think of him, I think more of a 5, but then Grant Gilchrist being the captain, maybe they'll try and keep him on. Andy Christie will be joining him at some point in that second half. I would really try and leave some of these forwards on for as long as possible until you're really beginning to feel the hit. Some key players in those forwards that don't really want to be taken off too early. And then finally in the replacement backs, Ali Price, Ross Thompson and Kyle Rowe. Now, Ross Thompson and Kyle Rowe, 2 players I don't know a great deal about. So, a couple of new boys for me to be looking at there, see if they're going to be able to make a big impact in this game. Scotland didn't really have a lot of big impact from the bench last week, which was a shame. Whereas on the flip side, Argentina were losing their key fly half and having Carreras come on and absolutely open the game up. So, having a big bench is going to be useful in these sorts of games. It's obvious that basically being on the offensive is the way to go. Argentina on the offensive scoring points. When Scotland got on the offensive in that sort of 20 minutes after the second half started, they were actually really scoring a lot of points, really coming back. So being the team with the ball in hand and being on the offensive is clearly one of the big tactics for this test series. So in terms of a score prediction, what do we think then? Well, I think Scotland have made some changes here that are directly going to result in trying to slow down that Argentina play. Argentina have had a couple of substitutions, missing a couple of key players now. I still think Carreras and people like that coming in are going to help them. But hopefully Scotland will have taken quite a lot away from that last game just to try and build on the defensive wall a bit, but also slowing down the play and maybe not kicking the ball away as much. There was an awful lot of kicking in this game, which didn't really lead to anything. So hopefully they will have gone away and learned a little bit from something from that game. And I think from what we saw in that 20 minutes where Scotland were on top, that if they just gain control and momentum of this game, they will just go on to win. They just can't afford to let it slip. So for me, I'm going to predict a Scotland win. I don't think by a great deal. I'm going to say Scotland by 5. I don't think it'll be necessarily beyond the try, but I think it'll be just beyond that kicking ratio. Hopefully, we get to see Blair Kinghorn keeping up with his kicking rate, because his kicking rate was pretty good last week in terms of towards the post, but they just need to kick a little bit less from hands. Just settled themselves down. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Who do you think is going to win? What do you think the final score prediction will be? Remember, for anyone who's joined up to the Super Brew, get that score in real early, because of course there was a game on Friday. A couple of people missed it last week. Messes up with your scores a little bit, so make sure you are adding them into Super Brew by tomorrow, realistically. But I hope you've all enjoyed today, guys. Of course, we're going to be doing some match reports for some of these games, if I remember to turn my mic on. So hopefully they'll be coming out over the weekend as well. So make sure you are subscribed to the channel just to keep up to date with all the latest videos as they come out. I hope you've all enjoyed today, guys, and I will see you all next time. Bye-bye.